Daria Albinger, ABC News.
News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KBNU.
KBNU News Time is 4:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. Local law enforcement seized a record amount of marijuana on Monday from the bedroom of a 16-year-old Logan boy. The more than 25 pounds of pot were found after officers witnessed a suspected drug buy in the parking lot of a Logan department store. Logan City Police Assistant Chief Jeff Simmons, who has been with the police department since 1997, said he couldn't remember law enforcement ever confiscating this amount of drugs at once in Cache Valley. The marijuana had a reported street value of more than $75,000. Logan City Police Lieutenant Brad Frankie said officers saw the buy take place Monday afternoon and then began trailing a vehicle with two individuals inside. The suspects allegedly made another buy as police were watching from a distance. The car then stopped at a Logan home where the 16-year-old suspect got out. Frankie said the police later initiated a traffic stop on the car, arresting William Jeffrey Reese, an 18-year-old Providence man. Inside, they found evidence of the drug buys, which allowed them to get a warrant to search the 16-year-old's home. When they served the warrant, agents with the Cache-Rich Drug Task Force found more than 20 large storage bags of marijuana, several bottles of alcohol, and 2 boxes of vape cartridges. Several weapons were also seized, including a handgun in the 16-year-old's waistband and a sword under his bed. Reese was booked into the Cache County Jail on suspicion of possession of a controlled substance with the intent to distribute and other offenses. The 16-year-old, who was not identified because of his age, was booked into the Cache Valley Youth Center. Frankie said officers believe the 16-year-old had just returned from a trip to California last Friday, where he purchased the marijuana. The juvenile is suspected of orchestrating the drug deals, while the 18-year-old was allegedly driving the boy around in exchange for drugs. KBNU News Time is 4:07. KBNU weather tonight, mostly cloudy, a slight chance of snow, patchy fog after midnight, low near 10, and then partly sunny skies on Wednesday, patchy fog in the morning, high temperature in the mid-20s. Mostly cloudy Thursday, mid-20s for the high. It's only been to 20 degrees this afternoon. That's where we are currently at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Northern Steel Building. You can work with their Cache Valley team to build a stronger, more durable, long-lasting structure for your needs. Call 435-677-7300.
This is David from Roof Rescue. A roof is not something most people think about until they notice a leak on the ceiling. This time of year, fluctuation in temperatures, along with rain, snow, and ice, can do a number on your roof. If you notice these leaks, they won't go away on their own and are oftentimes a sign that the roof has reached the beginning of the end of its life. Call Roof Rescue for a free analysis, diagnosis, and estimate. Let's fix those leaks and keep you dry this winter. Call 435-999-4268 or visit roofrescueusa.com. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KBNU News Time is 4:08. One Utah group, Breathe Utah, was one of many who voiced their support during this month's EPA public hearing on the proposed rule to reduce oil and gas methane pollution. Ashley Miller with Breathe Utah says the state is in need of strong rules from the EPA. She cites vast jurisdictional issues when it comes to air pollution, especially in the Uinta Basin. Miller says faces ozone pollution during the winter. She adds having oversight from the Environmental Protection Agency would offer guidance to Utah producers found on federal, state, and tribal lands, and remains pleased with how the agency is moving forward.
Hey, you know what? We really like what's in the draft rules. We think you guys nailed it. Don't scale it back is kind of the thing that we were kind of going for.
Miller recognizes that those who live in the Uinta Basin rely heavily on the oil and gas industry for jobs, but believes the EPA rule is crucial to ensure the appropriate protection is put in place for those who live and work within the sector and are exposed to harmful byproducts. And a driver attempting to flee, Utah Highway Patrol troopers hit speeds that would have nearly qualified him for the Daytona 500. 32-year-old Jacob Reeves was arrested Thursday after troopers clocked him traveling at over 130 miles per hour. But he claimed he was actually going even faster. Driving with a passenger in a 2013 Volkswagen Jetta on Route 89 near Kanab, Reeves passed one trooper while speeding at 95 miles per hour in a 65 zone. When the trooper turned around and attempted to pull Reeves over, he reported that he had accelerated to 130 miles per hour, according to arrest documents. Despite commands from other troopers to stop, Reeves kept traveling at a high rate of speed before his tires were spiked, about 30 miles from where he was originally caught speeding. Once stopped and taken to jail, Reeves admitted that he had actually reached speeds between 150 and 170 miles per hour during the pursuit and had been stopped 2 hours earlier in Arizona for speeding and driving without a license. A check of Reeves' North Carolina license found that it was suspended at the time of the arrest. Last week, UHP reported that troopers had already stopped 3,500 drivers for speeding in just the first 2 weeks of the year. KVNU News Time is 4:11. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Keeping you informed. News Talk KVNU, 610 AM, 102.1 FM, and online at 610kvnu.com.
If it's leaking, replace it. If it's worn, replace it. If you're constantly worrying about it with every windstorm, replace it. What are we talking about? Your roof. Palmer's Metal Mart is your place for a long-lasting, great-looking metal roof for your home, cabin, barn, or shed. Metal roofing is the put-it-up-and-forget-about-it roofing solution. For almost 30 years, people have chosen Palmer's Metal Mart for metal roofing for their selection, price, and most importantly, the professional help you get with your project. From start to finish, Metal Mart can help you with all the options for your amazing metal roof. Whether it's an accent on your roof or a complete re-roof, Palmer's Metal Mart is the place to go. Metal provides a unique and timeless look that gives the wow factor to any project. So come see the metal roofing experts at Palmer's Metal Mart, located in Lehigh and Logan. We're ready to help. Ask about quick same-day will calls or delivery to your door. Palmer's Metal Mart, everyone's metal store.
Hi, this is Dan Jessup of Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Medicare can be very complicated and frustrating. The saying that you've heard all of your life, work smarter, not harder, is excellent advice for most things in life, including Medicare. At Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services, we help you become smarter about Medicare, saving you time by simplifying the whole process and helping you avoid all the frustration. Why not work smarter, not harder? Call us at Jessup Insurance, 435-213-3200, or Google Jessup Insurance.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
For the people.
We are waiting with bated breath for news from the Cash Republican Party meeting an executive committee tonight.
With Jason Williams.
And I'm really excited about this next segment. We have two guests here in studio. We're going to talk about something that we've talked about many times here on the show, but from a bit of a different angle.
Weekday afternoons from 4 till 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM.
Welcome to KVNU's For the People. It is Tuesday, January 24th. I'm Jason Williams, and a reminder to listeners, today's show is pre-recorded. We'll be revisiting some of our pre-legislative session interviews and also checking in with some of our lawmakers on how they feel about the session so far. But, again, we won't be live. So I'll be back with you on Wednesday. We'll have an update on the Sundance Film Festival, where I currently am. But a reminder for listeners that is live, happening later on this evening, 6:30 p.m., Congressman Blake Moore is hosting a telephone town hall. That's tonight, 6:30 p.m. The details on this, first off, you can just dial in, which is 833-305-1678, 833-305-1678. the way this works, there's a queue of sorts you can put yourself in to ask a question live, and everyone who is dialed in will be a part of that. But also, if you are driving, couldn't write that number down, blakemore.house.gov. This is an official town hall of his legislative office, so this is easily accessible via a live stream there as well, and then the number there on the front page at blakemore.house.gov. If you can't make it to the teletown hall tonight, Congressman Moore will actually be joining us for a official radio town hall. That's right. It's been a while. Congressman Moore will be back with us for a radio town hall in the coming weeks. We'll have an exact date on that to announce soon. Coming up, you'll hear from Senator Chris Wilson and Representative Dan Johnson on the legislative session so far. But before we get to all of that, it is time for your headlines with Smooth Jazz. This is our contribution to, dialing back the temperature as much as possible when it comes to the legislative session and all of the news in between. Things can get a little heated, right? So, your headlines with Smooth Jazz to bring the temperature down. Utah legislators will be, the headline reads, swiping left or right on a bill to increase data app security. What is this reference all about? Well, if you've ever used a dating app, most of them have a swipe left or right feature, meaning left is don't like is interested. This is an attempt of Utah lawmakers to deal with something that has been a serious issue, from catfishing and fraud to murder, homicide, and horrible crimes that have been committed in the state of Utah, in which the perpetrator used a dating app. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot state lawmakers can do, but in the 2023 legislative session, House Minority Leader Angela Romero, a Democrat from Salt Lake, has proposed a bill, again, to combat the risk, fraud, and potential violence that goes hand in hand with online dating. House Bill 18, if you'd like to read the legislation, acts to protect individuals using online dating apps. Last year, in the Deseret News, there was an article published called The Dilemma of Dating Apps, and the article highlighted some examples of how they can be abused by sexual predators and fraudsters, at least. Brigham Young professors also, in their own research, published a study unearthing a disturbing trend correlating online dating with some heinous crimes and even crime rings. The study showed that from 2017 to 2020, also, 14% of rapes committed in Utah occurred during initial meetings that began on a dating app. There's something about the app and the anonymity that just invites this, maybe, was the speculation of researchers. Romero's bill would ensure that dating apps used in Utah have pop-up safety ads reminding people of the risks, but also promoting responsible behavior, such as sharing your location with a trusted friend or family member before meeting someone for a date organized on a dating app. Having a way to get out of the situation is needed, and some other basic safety precautions. That pop-up information would be for every dating app that was accessed via cell phone or computer or tablet or what have you in the state of Utah. Romero says it's the least we can do, but also possibly the most we can do as well. Not a lot of control state lawmakers have over this, but Romero says we're just trying to remind people that if you put yourself in these situations, things can go wrong, so you should plan for that, and some simple things could really protect you in a horrible situation. So, this day in history. On this day in 1916, conscription was introduced in Great Britain. In 1935, the Kruger Brewing Company placed the first ever canned beer on sale at a grocery store in Richmond, Virginia. That was 1935, January 24th, 1935. In 1943, on January 24th, U.S. President Roosevelt and British Prime Minister Churchill concluded a wartime conference in Casablanca, Morocco. This was a famous point in the war, and also something that led to some coverage in technically the pre-television days, in which recordings of the video itself had Americans wrapped to their radios to get an update from this meeting that was to be a pivotal point in the war itself. That was this day in 1943. In this day in 1965, Winston Churchill himself died at the age of 90. And this day in 1972, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down laws that denied welfare benefits to people who had resided in a state for less than a year. This day in 1980, the United States announced intentions to sell arms to China. Now, something was very controversial at this time. And in more recent history, this day in 2002, the United States Congress began the hearings into the famous Enron scandal. For political junkies, you may be thinking to yourself, I cannot believe that was 21 years ago. But it was. If you remember the Enron scandal, you've officially been following politics for either just long enough or too long. And finally, this day in 2003, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security began operations under Tom Ridge. What's noteworthy about that? Well, that was the first time that we got a glimpse of what would soon become the much hated, for good reason, surveillance state. Tom Ridge himself wasn't responsible for that, but he was the first to usher it in under a mandate from Congress. So, yes, now they are watching. They probably were before, and well, there ain't much you can do about it. Wrapping up our headlines with smooth jazz here with some science news. I'll leave you with this one very quickly. You can read the article and the research if you want, but welcome to the planet, biobots. I'm sure this won't go wrong. Not only are these robots made from actual muscle and 3D printed skeletons. The muscle comes from mice, by the way, and yes, they don't hurt the mice. Well, it might hurt. They don't kill the mice when they take these samples to grow. Then the biobots are created and the grown muscle attached to 3D printed skeletons, and then here's where things get super creepy. They can now be controlled. Thanks to micro LEDs and flashing light sensors, these biobots, can be remote controlled. Anyone with the light flashing device that knows how to use it. Yeah. I don't know why we're doing this stuff. Everyone knows where this ends. But we brought it to you calmly. Those are your headlines with smooth jazz. We'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
The Cache Valley Media Group Home and Garden Show, presented by Anderson Seed and Garden, is coming March 24th and 25th at the Eccles Ice and Event Center. For more than 25 years, thousands of people have enjoyed this fun and helpful home show. Main Street access, great parking, and thousands of visitors make it perfect for your business. Reserve your space today. Google Cache Valley Home and Garden Show for details.
That's Cache Valley Home and Garden Show.
Or call 752-1390.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you.
I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and multiply efforts to treat one another with respect, what do you get? Less division. And school sports have it down to a science. Looking for an example of what can happen when we realize there's more that unites us than divides us? Look no further than high school sports in Utah.
This message presented by the Utah High School Activities Association and the Utah Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. And Cache Valley proper, we have with us State Senator Chris Wilson for a little legislative preview. And Senator Wilson, appreciating the time for this today. I know, not every bill is out, and not every bill will be out for some weeks now. But we do have a sense of what some priorities are from legislative leaders, Senate leaders, and others. And then, of course, you'll have your own bills that you're working on. But I wanted to start off with this because I was just clicking through your official Senate page, Senator, and who did you make angry to get yourself on these committees? You're going to be one of the busiest people in the session.
It is going to be a crazy session. Yes, I don't know if I did something wrong or if I've done something right. I can't quite figure it out yet. But it's going to be a busy session, and not only that, you throw in the bills that we're going to be working on, some appropriations for the district that are very important, and then there on that they don't even talk about. I don't think they showed the broadband commission that I was just Senate chair of. It's been
that's right.
Quite time consuming, but also they just recently asked if I'd be on the Great Salt Lake Caucus Working Group, which was a great honor. There's that's going to be kind of a smaller working group to really work through policies. I've been asked to be on the Outdoor Recreation Caucus, and then of course I've been on the Clean Air Caucus for a couple years. So it's going to be busy, but a lot of important issues and things that we're going to try and repair in the state of Utah, and try and be efficient and very effective with the taxpayer money, and make sure that we're managing the revenue wisely.
Sure.
But it's going to be busy. It's going to be crazy, and I'm down here in Salt Lake most of this week, and tomorrow I've got meetings for broadband and also meetings with infrastructure and general government. The Senate, I'm Senate chair of that, and boy, we're talking about going through and looking at how to properly spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars in the IGG committee. So it should be fun, exciting.
The challenge there as well is this: you have all this money coming through this federal bill that was passed, and you have to decide how to best invest that, right? And you have a very limited amount of time to decide that. That's the committee that stood out to me. You've got the Higher Education Appropriations Committee and the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee. They're busy enough right there. But that Infrastructure and General Government Appropriations Subcommittee, you have to take this money. So the federal government is saying you will spend this, and the state has to then take that and say, how can we invest this best long term? You can't just throw it at whatever. Walk us through that a little bit if you can. How do you determine something that's probably constantly moving and fluid, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is you have guidelines that usually the Treasury Department sends out, and you're trying to constantly read what they mean by their guidelines. Usually their guidelines are many pages long.
Sure.
And we do the best we can, and we try and look at projects like you mentioned. They're generational projects that we're going to try and spend wisely going forward to future generations. And so it's something I really enjoy, the budget aspect, appropriations part of it, and And Infrastructure General Government is a subcommittee that's been a real pleasure being the Senate chair, and I really enjoyed it. We also work on the UDOT budget. We're over the UDOT budget, so there's some UDOT expenditure and projects that we've been looking at, and debt service. But yeah, a lot of the federal money. There's been a lot of federal money, and we're still. I've been very much involved with the Broadband Commission, the IIJA federal funding, in a number of different buckets, and I'm still working on trying to get our fair, or in my opinion, an unfair amount of federal funds to make sure we connect the state of Utah. Very, very important for future economic development, especially in the Cache County. We got a lot of areas that are unserved and underserved areas that we need to try and connect for future, for healthcare purposes, for education purposes, agriculture. A lot of things we need to would help us if we can connect our valley. So that's something that's taken a lot of time and effort, but that's mainly part of that federal stimulus money that is coming to the state. And I don't agree with it. Obviously, some of the excess spending is why we've got some inflation issues, but it's already been spent, if you will. Yeah. And we, as the state of Utah, I feel obviously obligation to do everything I can to try and make sure we get the funds that we need for the state of Utah and the state and my district, which includes, of course, Cache County, most of Cache County, and Rich County.
Sure,
some big needs.
That's you mentioned the Broadband Advisory Committee. For those who haven't been following this closely, the governor, two governors now have set this as an agenda item to get broadband out to some areas where it isn't already, and better connect our state. The governor has also said I think 30% of the state's workforce should be working remotely over the next few years, so that for example, someone in Rich County can actually work for the state, whereas previously you had to live in at least Davis or Salt Lake County to do so. This is a big deal. But last session, the 2022 session, Senator, you helped create this advisory committee, and then they said, well, good luck, you're on it. And your district is such a perfect example of the challenge, right? You have Cache County, where broadband is widely available. And then in your district, you also have Rich County, where the opposite is the case, right?
Yeah. And we still have some areas out in Clarkston, Cornish, parts of Lewiston that are unserved. We even have, you start looking at the map, and we have red dots, which is unserved and real underserved all throughout the county. It's kind of amazing, but you're right. Rich County has some real challenges. And we want to make sure that people, if we can try and relieve some of the pressure off the Wasatch Front and make sure that people, in Clarkston, some of these smaller communities have the opportunity to join the workforce who would like to. And, maybe supplement their income, help. We know how inflation has affected our families and trying to put food on the table. Pay rent and pay mortgages. We want to give them opportunity that if they have the strong enough connection, then they can maybe join the workforce and work from home. So I think it's vitally important. And being the Senate chair of that Broadband Commission was really very, very, very lucky to be able to get that. Senate President was very good to me, giving me that, and we set it up. And we've already been working hard, and there could be up to we're guaranteed $100 million, and we're hoping that if we do our job right, we have some great people on the Broadband Commission. Rebecca Dilge and her staff has done a tremendous job. But we're thinking, and I don't want to, cause some issues, but we could be $300 to $400 million possibility of bringing to the state of Utah. So it's a big deal and something that we need to make sure we get it right.
Revisiting here our time with Senator Chris Wilson ahead of the legislative session, his preview of the session and what you can expect from him and some of the issues he's keeping a close eye on as the session continues to play out. Hear more from Senator Chris Wilson here on the show today. First, though, a look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KBNU News Time is 4:34. This look at the news brought to you by Northern Steel Building. A 27-year-old Logan man has been ordered to serve 1 year in jail for sexually abusing a woman while on a date in 2019. Karsten McKinley Hinckley showed no emotion as he was taken into custody by bailiffs and led out of the courtroom after a judge called his actions unacceptable and not tolerated in society. Hinckley was sentenced Monday morning in First District Court. He previously accepted a plea deal, pleading guilty to an amended charge of forcible sex abuse, a second-degree felony. Logan City police officers began investigating Hinckley after the victim contacted 911 on December 26, 2019. She explained how she was on a date with the defendant when he sexually assaulted her. Hinckley cooperated with police when they contacted him hours later. He was booked into the Cache County Jail and later released on pretrial supervision after posting $40,000 bail. The case had been delayed partially due to COVID-19 restrictions that limited in-person hearings. A 4-day jury trial was canceled last November after the defendant accepted the plea deal. During Monday's hearing, defense attorney Edward Brass said the crime occurred because Hinckley was naive and inexperienced. He said his client was remorseful and took full responsibility for what he had done. Judge Angela Fonsbeck said if it wasn't for Hinckley accepting a plea deal, she would have considered sentencing the defendant to prison. She said the impact the defendant's actions had on the victim will last forever. Hinckley was ordered to immediately begin serving 364 days in jail and have no contact with the victim or her family. He will also be placed on the sex offender registry for 10 years. For nearly a month, Governor Spencer Cox has been saying that the state is fully prepared for a fight with social media companies over the mental health of young Utahns. That battle was joined Monday when Cox and Attorney General Sean Reyes held a press conference to announce their intention to file lawsuits against those companies. During his State of the State address last week, the governor thanked legislators for their ongoing efforts to introduce proposals to counter the negative influences of social media. From the same podium on Monday, Reyes said his staff would shortly begin seeking expert outside legal counsel to spearhead lawsuits against social media giants. While Reyes declined to specify which companies might be named in those future lawsuits, he explained that legal action will seek to force social media companies to provide improved safeguards for young users. In the past month, Cox has been ramping up his demands on social media companies. The list of safeguards he is now proposing include age limits on social media access, banning cell phones from public school classrooms, empowering parents to limit toxic technology at home, and preventing social media giants from collecting data from kids. And with all the deep snow we've had in the mountains this year, the Utah Department of Wildlife Resources is concerned about the state of big game animals. It's difficult for deer to find food in parts of Rich and Summit counties, and recent health checks of big game in those areas have shown below average body fat conditions for the deer. As a result, DWR announced it is taking a two-pronged approach to help the deer out in those areas. Biologists have implemented emergency deer feeding. Specially designed pellets will be distributed in specific areas. And conservation officers are conducting additional patrols to help reduce the repeated stress that people may be putting on deer in those areas. KBNU weather is brought to you by Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Turn life up. Schedule a free hearing evaluation with Dr. Paul Danes at Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology. Go to cachehearing.com. KBNU weather tonight, mostly cloudy, slight chance of snow, patchy fog after midnight, low near 10. Partly sunny, patchy fog in the morning on Wednesday, mid-20s for the high. It's been to 21. It's 21 right now. For the latest news, visit CacheValleyDaily.com. We'll check the closing numbers on Wall Street from Edward Jones next.
In the beginning of time, in a land far away, hid a material in the earth so versatile that once discovered could give way to a century of innovation. From primitive weapons to railroads to buildings that scrape the skies.
What is it? Steel. And without it, our world would look much different. Nothing is stronger or more versatile than steel. And if you want a building that'll stand the test of time, call Northern Steel Buildings at 435-677-7300 or visit northernsteelbuilding.com. That's northernsteelbuilding.com.
This is financial advisor Clayton McMurray from Edward Jones, bringing you the closing market report for Tuesday, January 24th. Equity markets were mostly softer today after back-to-back gains in the last two sessions. Depressed sentiment and concerns over recessionary pressures seem to be the main drivers for markets over the last month or so. However, on a positive note, disinflationary pressures are building, taking some upside risk from the Federal Reserve interest rate off the table. U.S. Treasury yields were also softer today, but not by much, as the 10-year yield continues to hover around 3.5%. A deep yield curve inversion that took shape last year has persisted, added to depressed sentiment, and continues to advertise inflationary concerns from the fixed income market. Recent data out of Europe and China have given investors a reason to breathe a sigh of relief. In Europe, French, German, and Eurozone data releases have shown inflation moving lower than expected as energy prices continue to ease. Analysts and economists had widely expected an energy crisis to take shape entering winter with starkly lower supplies of piped natural gas from Russia. However, efforts to import liquid natural gas from the U.S., Saudi Arabia, and other exporters have led to nearly full national reserves and staved off an energy crisis. In China, officials have moved quickly to relax strict COVID-19 lockdown rules, allowing the economy to reopen and for the manufacturing sector to begin a recovery phase. Improving manufacturing in China has a big impact on global supply chains and is largely seen as disinflationary pressure. In stocks today, the Dow closed up 104 points at 33,734. The Nasdaq was down 30 points at 11,334, and the S&P 500 was down 3 points at 4,017. In bond markets, the 10-year Treasury are currently at 3.46%, and in commodity markets, the price of crude oil was down $1.45 at $80.17, and the spot price of gold was up $10 at $1,938.60. This has been today's closing financial market report, brought to you by Clayton McMurray of Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and long-term financial advice at 1309 North Main Street in Logan. If you'd like any additional information, including current stock prices, please give us a call at 435-753-0537 or visit any of our 7 branches here in Cache Valley or online at edwardjones.com.
Own a small business or a farm? You thought about solar? Listen up. A new USDA grant was announced allocating $300 million for farmers and small business owners to put in solar. That's right. The government will help you get solar installed, covering 40% of the costs. And don't forget, as a business, you can save up to 50 or 60% more with federal and state tax credits. Second Sun Solar will install your system and help with the USDA paperwork. Call Second Sun Solar today at 435-363-9917 or online at utahsolardirect.com. We start each new year filled with hope and prosperity for things to come. At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, it's no different. Dr. Daines is so grateful to get to call Cache Valley home and continue to offer his services to the wonderful people that live in our beautiful valley. He wants to help you start your new year off right by improving your hearing, which over the course of time will help improve your quality of life. Give them a call at 435-753-4327 or 753-HERE to schedule an appointment, or you can visit them online at CacheValleyHearing.com.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. for a free military veteran's guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Revisiting some of our legislative interviews as the legislature gets week 2 fully underway here. We had a chance to speak recently with Senator Chris Wilson, talk about some of the bills he's keeping an eye on from other lawmakers, some of the bills he has himself running under his own name, and also had a chance to ask him this question, what his priorities for the session are going to be.
In your position, working on these important committees, developing a base budget for infrastructure and general government operations and all of that, much of your time will go there. But do you have a list of your own priorities, or even is there a certain issue you know another lawmaker's bringing up that you want to make sure to put a stop to?
Well, yeah, that's a great point. And I want to mention one other thing. Another working group I've been working on is the Rev and Tax Working Group, mainly the Republican senators from the Rev and Tax Committee, has been working on the tax structure, income tax, sales tax, property taxes. We've been meeting a number of times trying to look into that. So I want to mention that also. But, yeah, the bills, I've currently, trying to remember, I've probably got somewhere around 10, 11 bills that I'll be working on and priorities. I'm still working a little bit on the child exploitation. I passed that bill last session. We've still got another bill that we're working on with the Attorney General's office. Working on some, if you've heard of the big 3-letter word, it's ESG, or 3-letter. I've got a few bills working on environmental social governance. That's kind of been a hot topic that you probably heard about.
This is where
working on
these ratings companies are factoring in new metrics, and the state's concerned that could unfairly ding Utah, right?
Yeah, and it could